What's up, Whisper Nation? It is August 27th, and we are heading into preseason week 3. We got a bunch of news and hype train pieces that we're going to be talking about, whether we buy or sell. I got my main man, Austin, joining me today, and guess what? It's his birthday. All that and more on today's episode of the Fantasy Whispers.
Right here.
That is right. Like Johnny has said, we will be taking some news and nuggets from around the NFL training camps today. But if you like that fresh fantasy football content and want more of it, consider subscribing to the YouTube channel and giving this and our other videos a like on your way in or on your way out. It counts both the same. That being said, welcome in Whisper Nation. My name is Austin Sear. You can find me on Twitter at Austin_R_Sear. And I am joined by the one and only Johnny Game Time Hicks, who you can find on Twitter at Johnny_Game Time. What's going on, Johnny Hicks?
What's up, buddy? More better yet, how are you doing, man? You decided that on your special day, you wanted to join us, me, I guess I shouldn't say us, join
and
me
Whisper Nation.
and Whisper Nation.
Of course.
So how are you doing? How was your morning? Do you have any big plans going?
Dude, I'm so excited about being here, and there is honestly no place I would rather spend part of my birthday than on air with you, with Whisper Nation, talking about the greatest game of all time, fantasy football, of course. So I mean, it's been a great day, great people, great conversations. Going to have more stuff ahead, and I promise you, even when we go off camera, fantasy football will still be a part of what is discussed all day long, birthday or otherwise.
It's fantasy football season, man. I've been wearing my fantasy football season shirt all the time.
Yeah, man. And, you speaking of the birthday, a lot of gifts coming around. All those are appreciated. And I would argue, though, that there is no better gift this time of year than the Fantasy Whisperers draft kit, which is officially here and is better than ever. Our draft kit is fully loaded with premium player projections and rankings, consistency charts with over 3 years worth of data, cheat sheets, strength of schedule charts, and so much more. The TFW draft kit is available for your industry low price of $15. So head on over to thefantasywhispers.com. Go get your kit. All right, Johnny, but let's go ahead and get into the news.
I'm amped, dude. I'm so amped.
I know, man. It's really here. There's actually shifts that are happening. People have had their drafts already taken place. People got drafts coming up.
It's exciting. It's exciting. This is like the best time of the year. And if it's not, I was just thinking, I'm going to tweet this out. So don't beat me to it. But if this isn't your favorite time of the year, as far as, fantasy football goes, you're doing it wrong. You're just doing it wrong because the league, your league mates, drafting together is one of the best feelings in the world.
The best part is that you drafted your team and it's the best team of all time and nobody could tell you otherwise.
Exactly,
and it's for sure winning
You're going
that
undefeated, dude.
Yeah,
undefeated
season.
season.
Have you seen my team? Have you seen my roster? Tell me how this can get beat.
There are no holes. 0 holes in my entire roster.
There are 0 holes. I got Travis Etienne in my flex, baby. Flex play. Yeah. How good is that? Well, as we move into the news, Travis Etienne suffered a midfoot Liz Frank injury, and he's out for the season. That long-term outlook on Travis Etienne, there's a 21% production dip year 1 after Liz Frank surgery. That makes him pretty volatile next year. He was already arguably volatile as is from the Urban Meyer comments about the slot, about the scat back role. Now we have the Liz Frank. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, Johnny. This is pretty much a worst case scenario right now for the incoming rookie and for dynasty managers.
It really is a pretty harsh and once again for redraft leagues, this is why we always suggest waiting until we always do to plan on like the last 2 weekends. Luckily, you have that bye week now for that 4th preseason, so there's not such a small window. But that's when we usually advise people on drafting because of information like this. Because now James Robinson, like we talked about it on our last show, James Robinson now skyrockets up ADP boards. And then if you were able to draft him, because you drafted in August or early August or whatever, now that team has a significant advantage, whoever drafted him. So that's why we always advise you to not do this. As far as dynasty goes, Austin, it's not looking good. Definitely also thumbs up for James Robinson on a dynasty aspect as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well said. And a lot of other updates coming around the league that we're going to continue touching on. We've got the Broncos, who just named Teddy Bridgewater as their starting quarterback. I think they're going to be happy with that. Yeah. The Patriots have traded Sony Michel over to the Rams, and Adam Schefter believes that Sony Michel will probably be the lead back. For what it's worth, the Next Gen Stats has Sony Michel as the highest rushing yards over expectation per attempt last year amongst backs, with 50 or more carries.
Yeah, Sony's low key kind of. I mean, when he's in, he produces. I think that the knee injury and the knee surgeries early in his career scared people off. It scared us off, and so I do expect him actually to get a decent sized role here in this offense, and I do think that he'll take away carries from Henderson. Am I coming in glitchy here?
No, you sound just fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think Sony Michel gets slept on a lot. He's been a disappointment. The former first-round draft pick arguably has been, and it's not a really difficult argument to make. But last year when he did play, he looked good. The numbers were good. The next-gen stats were solid.
He should get the Malcolm Brown role of last year. He's a good pass catcher. He's a good pass blocker. And I think that's, Henderson struggles with that. And so that's what I think they're bringing him in to be that Malcolm Brown role. So he'll have value.
I'd take Malcolm Brown maybe a little bit plus, especially if Darrell Henderson minus. Like if Darrell Henderson's injuries keep going and Sony Michel's healthy.
I mean, he's definitely one of those guys. It's like not bad to take a dart throw on if you go that upside down draft. Zero RB or anchor RB. I mean, there's a lot of worse running backs you can get than Sony.
For sure. Moving back over to Jacksonville, where Trevor Lawrence was named the Week 1 starter. No big surprise over that. We'll see what Gardner Minshew's future holds. Another quarterback news. We've had 3 consecutive practices for Carson Wentz with no issues with the foot. I think this is a pretty big deal, man.
I mean, kind of. Like,
I thought he was going to be done for the year. Like there was chances that he was going to be done. Like, I mean, you say no, but we just talked about Travis Etienne, who had a little foot issue, who now is done for the year. And we're saying his second year is not good.
Fair enough. I never truly. I was on the opposite side of that. I didn't. It was that significant or being more talked about in significant because it was a actual serious foot injury. So that's the only thing with me. Okay. I really expected him to miss a whole lot of time, and I think that people were overblowing that. And so I do think that Carson Wentz is going to be a solid quarterback. Now, is he going to be great? Probably not great, but he'll be solid.
Well said. I am looking forward now to seeing what he's actually about. You guys sound what did Easy Daddy say there?
He's saying we sound crazy for talking up Sony Michel. I'm just saying, you could get him so late in drafts, and if he hits, if there's upside there, there is upside there. It's the Rams offense.
No, there really is. I'm trying to look at where he finished with his things last year. I know we're not going to spend a lot of time here on Sony Michel, but the numbers. Remember about week 3 last year, 9 attempts for 117 yards. He had, you look at the yards per carry to close out the season in weeks 15, 16, and 17, 7.4 yards per carry, 6.9 yards per carry, 4.8 yards per carry for yardage totals of 74 yards, 69 yards, 76 yards. He didn't get more than 16 carries during that run. He also only dropped 2 passes all season. It's not like he got a ton, but in preseason, he had a nice little catch and shake.
But I mean, that was what he did in college. He was a great pass catcher, which was why it was so weird that they weren't, that. But I think it had to do with his knees, is why they didn't want to use him as a three-horse workhorse running back. I don't know. I don't know if we should be hyping up Sony this much and talking about this much, but there is like we said, there's value there.
Yeah. Before we jump into the other stuff, Mr. Miyagi was saying you were sounding choppy. You're sounding good right now, though. It came in. It sounds like you're sounding okay. Whisper Nation, let us know if we're getting glitchy at all on this. And Easy Daddy, by the way, does my home leagues draft tonight. LFG, that is the best, man.
Dude,
our league of record drafts on Labor Day. That's our traditional day it is the best time of the year. Moving on here to other pass catchers in Carolina Panthers wide receiver Robbie Anderson has agreed and come to terms with the organization on a 2-year, $29.5 million extension. This is kind of an issue. This is a big deal, I think, in some ways.
It is a big deal because as we've been told by Hugh Jackson on our show, follow the money, and 2 years, $29.5 million when he is a little bit older of a wide receiver. I believe this is like his third contract. So, I mean, you got to hand it to him. Obviously, they know that he's going to be a role in their for their team. What is interesting, though, when you look at this, is last year they had 3 wide receivers that all went over 1,000 yards receiving.
Mm-hmm.
They draft Terence Marshall,
mm-hmm.
and through his first 2 preseason games, check this out: 25 of 28 first-team reps or snaps, 6 receptions for 138 yards, 75 yards after catch. He's averaging a 4.93 yards per route ran, which is insane. And when he's targeted, the quarterback passer rating is 116.7. Phenomenal numbers. Right now, he is being majorly slept on. He is a guy that you should definitely be targeting in the second half of your draft as a late round dart throw, because he is just a very good wide receiver. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him because of that offense, but there is reality. Like, there's enough volume to kind of go around. What if CMC's, pass catching doesn't necessarily go back up to where we thought it was? What if they reduce his touches in that aspect to kind of reserve that wear and tear on his body? That's something that I didn't really honestly consider until you start to see just the true talent around him. I don't know, Austin. It's something to definitely monitor, though, for me. It is, and it is a big thing because, like you said, they don't pay the man. We, give a golf clap. We love giving, he got paid. Congrats. But yeah, man, it's I
think a lot of people just are kind of looking at Robbie Anderson as being like a jag, like almost like a Rashad Perriman, like a guy who's talented. You're going to put him in with a lot of different organizations who need some help, and he'll do fine, but he's not really going to make an impact. That's not what we saw out of 1,000-yard season plus from Robbie Anderson last year. You got his boy Sam Darnold coming back in there. They went ahead and locked him up for a couple of years. He's 28 years old. He's still in a wide receiver prime age right now. And I think that Robbie Anderson really should be considered as more of a playmaker for the Carolina Panthers and not just a fill-in like maybe we were slating him out last year where he was going undrafted. And great point there.
Like, hey, yo, Robbie.
Yeah, right.
That's what you're saying.
And Terence Marshall, like you said, is probably a sneaky pickup there, as they did have 3 wide receivers last year break 1,000 yards: DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and of course Curtis Samuel now, who's with Washington. But Terence Marshall, the talented second-round rookie, is going to come in, and we expect him to fill in a productive fashion.
Yep.
Speaking of coming in and filling in, Saints named Jameis Winston the Week 1 starter versus the Green Bay Packers. He looked really good after a couple of plays. Playmaking is on the way, it looks like, in the Bayou. And they look like they're getting ready. Speaking of everybody else getting ready, you can do so through our partner with Manscaped. Fantasy football draft, it's upon us. And now is the time to put your PP back in PPR League with the sponsors of today's show, Manscaped, the leader in below-the-waist grooming. Just launched the new Performance Package 4.0. Don't neglect your balls the way the Packers front office has neglected Aaron Rodgers for the last decade. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code TFWMAN. This will help you tame that Troy Polamalu in your pants. So last time we got 20% off plus the free shipping. It's a real discount. It really works. My dad just picked one up last week, and he's super stoked with it. 20% off by doing TFWMAN at manscaped.com. Your significant other's nagging you about how much time you put in your fantasy team. Might as well go ahead and gift them some beautiful balls with Manscaped. And now for the fun part, let's talk about the Nuggets. I love how this promo is on brand, man. That's hilarious. All right. Are we buying and selling the hype, Johnny? Did we even do that on purpose?
No, but that was don't you be talking about my McNuggets, dude.
Yeah, we got clean nuggets here for you today, right?
Yes.
Brought to you by Manscaped. That's an extra one. And if you're liking what you're listening to, Whisper Nation, you haven't already liked and subscribed, consider doing so. Hitting that bell, hitting that thumbs up allows us to do what we love to do.
Almost to 1,800. We're trying to get there.
Yeah.
We're really close. So hopefully by the end of this weekend, we'll hit 1,800. Help us out. If you are watching and not subscribed, just hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you get notified whenever we go live.
Yes, sir. And you can catch more information coming your way. Like, are we buying and selling this hype, Johnny? Mac Jones, he finished 21. Mac Jones finished 21 of 26 and 11 on 11s. His best practice yet with the Patriots against the Giants starting defense. One might call it surgical. They were saying it should be noted too. This is Cam Newton, who was out with the COVID misunderstanding or something like that.
Yeah, they're frustrated over there in New England, and I think Mac Jones is going to take this opportunity, and he's gonna end up winning that starting job. I think that they're just overly frustrated, and this it wouldn't be like Belichick, like he would do this to kind of show Cam like, hey, you need to be serious about this because we have a guy that we are ready to turn and give the reins to. And so I do think that Mac Jones has the talent to lead this offense. He is going to hand it off to Damian Harris a lot. So that's going to be great. But you're talking about we like a lot of the pass catchers here. Jonnu, Jacoby Meyers is our boy. And so I do think that people are sleeping on this offense.
Speaking of Jacoby Meyers, he caught 6 of his 7 targets yesterday with 2 touchdowns from Mac. Would have caught all 7 with 3 touchdowns, but Mac overthrew on a deep crossover. So that Jacoby hype, it looks like it's still coming through. We're on track. The investment is getting more expensive by the day.
Yep. Come on, ride the train, the choo-choo train.
There we go, man. All aboard. And Damian Harris, staying here in New England, took the first handoff of every 11-on-11 period, which has been the case throughout the summer. Rookie Romandre Stevenson took the second handoff each period. So he got the biggest bump following that Sony Michel trade. It looks like he's going to be that number 2 as Romandre Stevenson in his preseason 2021 thus far has played 5 quarters. He has 25 rushing attempts and 193 rushing yards with 4 touchdowns. That's really great production. I know it's just preseason, but the alternative to this would not be exciting. This is something I'm at least feeling good about. Since 2015, there have only been 4 Power 5 running backs to average at least 100 rushing yards per game and 35 receiving yards per game in a single season. That's Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, and Romandre Stevenson. So,
yeah, that's a good list. That's a pretty, people might be like, oh, Joe Mixon, but that's a good list to be on. I'm pretty excited about Romandre. Just seeing, like, I think he's going to be like the next Damian Harris, right? Like, Damian Harris has now moved in the Sony Michel role. I think that in a couple of years, it will be Romandre, and he's very talented. I'm excited for him. Humble brag, I called this, on draft night. I said, watch out for this guy, even before he was drafted. And he's turning some heads. One
of the things I want to bring up to Whisper Nation is I feel like it's an optical illusion looking at the Patriots. And hear me out here for just a second with it. Like, we get really excited about Romandre Stevenson, as we should, because the dude is looking good, right? He's doing great production, looks good on film, looks good on the box score, looks good in the next gen stats, like all this stuff. Damian Harris does as well. And we talked earlier about the Los Angeles Rams. We've talked a lot about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have like this true RBBC that's coming in. We take a look at Tampa Bay. We got Rojo, we got Leonard Fournette, and Giovanni Bernard, right? And he's making big impacts on there. We talked earlier about the Rams. We've got Darrell Henderson, who had the lead job. Now Sony Michel just came over. We still got Xavier over there, who's that was looking more involved. Now he's the 3rd, but he's still going to be over there. Anyways, when you have an RBBC with 2, you can still get a lot of viability. When you have an RBBC with 3+, it really lowers that floor of any one of the running backs, because there is a scenario where game flow takes you down a direction where your guy is like getting 5 opportunities to do something. It could be a more pass heavy game. It could be a more one of the other running backs types of games. So you're still going to be involved. You're still going to have productive moments, but that consistency when you're looking at a 3+ running back backfield, Man, it's tough to get in on that. It's tough to get excited about that trajectory. I'm super stoked about Romandre Stevenson's football ability, Damian Harris's as well. But those two are going to be splitting touches. And James White hasn't gone anywhere. And J.J. Taylor has looked pretty good as well. And it's Bill Belichick, so we never know when Jonah Gray is just a phone call away from starting the next game. So, like, it's good, but it's so hard to pinpoint. There's a lot of mouths over there. They have 3, 4, 5 running backs all the time.
It's not as complicated as that. Like they'll use it. Like every team technically uses like 4 running backs throughout a year, but they're only going to get super minimal touches in a game plan, maybe 1, maybe 2 a game, and they're going to run a lot this often. That offensive line is so good. It's probably the best in the league, and they are going to run a lot. I'm just saying.
I think so too. I'm
not scared. I'm not scared at all because I know we say Bellatrix, but like when you dive into the actual snap percentages, they're pretty consistent. It's just we make it out to be way more significant than it really is because we see these 4 talented running backs, but it's really not as terrifying as it. I mean, now if Damian gets injured, it's a different story, right? Like then you got all these guys do it raise up, but
yeah. you're I guess like this, like just temper your expectations. I don't think a New England running back, unless we see one of those injury happens, ever has an above an RB2 potential. Like there just isn't the volume, even if the talent is there. He's just never going to be one. He's never going to main vein a running back. And that's what you need to have that RB1 type of potential, but it could be like a solid RB2, RB3 flex play. And it's going to have big moments, I think, as well. Yeah. So, all right. Well, if you like what you're hearing here, consider liking and subscribing. But Johnny, I wanted to ask you, who do you think is going to have a more productive year, Ruggs or Edwards?
So this is going to be a good debate because you are with Big Travie and you think that Ruggs is going to have a big year. I am in the full bandwagon and boat that Bryan Edwards is going to be the guy that you're going to want as far as the wide receivers go from Las Vegas, because Gruden came out. So this is why the hype.
You think he's just better? Like you think Edwards is just a better receiver, right?
I do.
He's in a better position to be more fantasy relevant.
I think that Ruggs, people are going to get enamored with Ruggs because Ruggs he will hit those, yes, and he'll hit those big home run plays. So he'll win you weeks. Like he will win you weeks. But as far as like as a solid floor and a fairly high ceiling, like we saw, Nelson Aguilar had some really nice games last year that definitely won people weeks. It just wasn't like, but people like those big shots. They like those highlight plays and seeing that was their player. So again, Ruggs will have some games because we all know that, Derek Carr does like to throw the ball deep. He loves it. He's like always one of the highest deep ball targets in the NFL. And so he'll get those attempts. Now, will he, convert those? Those are, they're like 50-50. That's why it's so concerning. That's why it's such a gamble. But I do think that Bryan Edwards, when you look at the end of the season, he'll be more consistent and he'll end up having more receiving yards because they're using him as that alpha.
I think you're right, Johnny, and I'm agreeing with everything you're saying on the Ruggs-Edwards debate here. It's the Vic to 4 comment that comes in that is squiggling it, if you will, squiggling it. Victor Ford came out and said, Gruden wants to show people that Henry Ruggs was a good pick over Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb. And I think that's a real point. Like, you are making the selection. You say Henry Ruggs is our guy. CeeDee Lamb was such a gassed up receiver, kind of like a DK Metcalf then, who showed in year 1 real quick that he was the guy you should have been going for and you shouldn't have been overthinking it. And he did. And so I'm just not surprised if Gruden, at least in the beginning, does try to, in the first quarter, has a couple of those like catch and go plays, some deep Hail Marys when he really shouldn't be, just to try to make a point because it's John Gruden.
Let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
Remember what Hugh Jackson, coach, said?
Yeah.
He said usually it's a hype piece, or so what if he's trying to tell Ruggs through that message, right? We're going conspiracy theory here, conspiracy theory Friday. Where what if he's saying that because he wants to remind Ruggs, hey, we took you over those guys and you need to prove us right. And you need to prove, and you also need to, like, I'm not saying that Ruggs doesn't believe in himself or that he doesn't try to use that, but maybe he sometimes forgets about that fact. Like, hey, you were the first wide receiver taken, and these guys are behind you and getting more hype. What does that say about you?
No matter, for the listeners who didn't catch the mock draft marathon, our Hugh Jackson and Jay the Plug segment in the second YouTube video, there's 4 of them because it's a 24-hour stretch. So in our second video there, we interviewed former head coach of the Oakland Raiders at the time, and Cleveland Browns, Hugh Jackson, and we talked about coach speak. And he said, coach speak is always a tool to influence what you're trying to influence. If it's truthful, it's just a coincidence. You can be using it to either gas up a player on your own team. You can be using it to throw in smoke screens for your opponents. It's always a tool. It's never meant to just be, hey, you're asking me a question, let me give you an honest answer. So Johnny, I hear what you're saying there about Henry Ruggs' name being linked to Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb. And I don't think it's a bad move from a motivational standpoint. It's kind of like, watch what CeeDee does this year, watch what Jeudy does this year, and we're kind of expecting you to exceed what that happens. So it's one of those things like, am I good? Well, look at the numbers. Are you exceeding it or not? And that will be a marker, one metric to apply to his success or lack thereof.
That's good. Good point.
That's going to be a fun one to watch, though. As is Eagles wide receiver Devontae Smith, Johnny. He just put Jets cornerback Bryce Hall in a spin cycle, short zip route. But Smith's footwork is what is being praised across the league from a lot of different professionals. Chad Johnson said, I don't think I've seen Devontae Smith get touched off the line one time all night. Being 170 doesn't matter if defensive backs can't even get a hand on you anyway.
Which I think is... Gotta love Chad Johnson, because I believe, I have to look this up and vet this, but I believe Chad Johnson was on the major, like the slimmer side playing football, and that was a big knock for that people said about him. And so I think this is also why he's like, yo, it doesn't matter, and I do think it's true. I think people overblew it. We always like get really excited about the quad, skies out, thighs out days on fantasy Twitter or like the size of a running back's calves and stuff. And then they, opposite side, you had the picture of Smith and his legs, and people were just like poking fun at him, like, oh, how can he succeed? Like, this guy's a great wide receiver. Like, we have to remember that, like, he was a Heisman Trophy winner for a reason. It's not like he just stumbled into it. So I do think that this is definitely news for sure.
Yeah, no, it is for sure. I want to give a quick shout out here before I move on to some of Whisper Nation's comments jumping in here. It's great to see some of y'all. MF Cowboy, what's good, man, in our TFW Listeners League. Getting that one going. Had our draft recently. That was pretty fun. Mr. Miyagi chiming in. It's great to have you here, man. Silver Rapture, what's going on? Going back to the comments. If Harris goes down, the Stevenson is a league winner. Very might could be. Love to see what he would be doing with really the leashes taken off.
Just check it. Chad Johnson, 188.
Yeah, skinny dude, man. Was, and speaking of the Patriots and Chad Johnson, that was like that year one he was with the Patriots. I took him round 8 in our year 1 of our league of record back in 2010. It still haunts me. And he should have been so good. He couldn't figure out the playbook though.
Can't guard me, dude. He can't guard me. I love how he did when he was on Hard Knocks, bro. And he was like with the Dolphins, and every time he'd be like, bro, you can't guard me. Like, just throw it to me. You can't guard me, bro. I just thought it was so funny.
And when he was in New England, you can't guard him if he's not playing, which is what ended up happening over there. So the man was speaking truth still. Moving forward, we've got a quote here about Josh Jacobs. I think people have gotten a little crazy with the Drake talk. Josh Jacobs will still get the majority of touches, and he looks tougher and faster. This camp is being reported. If possible, Drake will be moved around on third downs and in the red zone, and Richard is going to be a distant third in terms of usage.
So. What's funny about it is the big part here. Drake will be moved around on third downs, which we knew, and moved around, and in the red zone. Ding, 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 ding. Like, they are going to use him, which is why we are all saying he is a value, because he's fallen to the 11th round of fantasy football drafts, and he's been a top 15, a top 10 running back before, and they are going to give both both Josh Jacobs and Drake a lot of work this year. There's been multiple beat reporters that have said this. So I do think that Josh Jacobs is because now the offensive line, different kind of story, right? But yeah, I do think that they're both kind of in a value range right now. I don't necessarily like taking Josh Jacobs. I'd rather have Drake because he has a better value. But, you know, Josh Jacobs is a good running back. He just trolls his fantasy people who have him. So that's
I think that really took an impact too. Like, I think it has a venomous linger for the fantasy football community. Sure. Like, dude, they really
like a villain. He's like the villain of fantasy football.
Especially when you've seen so many players start to turn the tide on it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, man. Josh Jacobs, do your thing. Dallas Gotert is quietly having an outstanding training camp. He's got the most catches, 39, targets, 46, and touchdowns, 6 of any player on the roster. Looks pretty good for what a lot of folks are predicting as a breakout tight end this year. Bruce Arians over in Tampa Bay says Giovanni Bernard has been more than pretty good. Said he's already going to be a major part of the offense. And not great news for Ronald Jones or Leonard Fournette. Great news for Tom Brady, though, in the Tampa Bay Bucs.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this ever since the beginning of the summer, how we kind of expected him to take that James White role for Tom Brady. They specifically went out and got him, right? There was a holdup because James White was actually available. And there were a lot of rumors and talks that James White was going to go to Tampa Bay to join Tom Brady, but then he ended up going back and signing with the Patriots. So then they just went and they're like, okay, if we can't get James White, we'll get Gio. And so I do expect them to give him that role. And it's going to be for PPR purposes. It's going to be a guy that you can throw into your flex or like on a RB2 upside week, if need be, to get you through bye weeks and stuff like that. So I do think that this is significant news.
I'm personally dropping Rojo and Leonard Fournette a little bit down too. They're nice. They're fine. I'd still be happy with the value. As we always said, it's never about the player. It's about the ADP.
They're so risky, and it's a gamble. It's literally and it could be from week to week too. And
don't forget that Vaughn is still over there too, and we haven't heard anything about him.
Oh, I know, right?
Arians doesn't do anything with rookie RBs. You know what I mean?
Remember,
like David Johnson.
Oh yeah, yep.
So I'm just not surprised. I'm gonna let somebody else take him, or I'm gonna enjoy taking Rojo super late if he falls, but he probably won't fall that far.
Probably not. Nope.
Ryan Fitzpatrick has played 37 snaps this preseason. Logan Thomas has been in all of those 37 snaps, 13 snaps in the slot, 3 out wide, 22 routes on 22 Fitzpatrick dropbacks, 3 targets on Ryan Fitzpatrick, 21 pass attempts, 14.2%. That's pretty high for a tight end, right, Johnny?
Yeah, 14 is about median, right? So I would say on the low end, it's like 12, right? Normally on teams that don't necessarily utilize their tight end a whole lot, it's about 10 to 12%. And then they will split that up. What's interesting to me, I do think that Logan Thomas is a somewhat of a value because, again, he will get utilized. He'll get some targets. But what's interesting is that 3 targets, 14% is, there are a lot of guys that are going to get 14%, we have now I'm blanking on Noah Fant, excuse me. Noah Fant, we project him to get 14%. We project Gotert, I have right around 14%. So there are a lot of guys that are projected to get around that. And this was my whole thing is Fitzmagic likes to go to wide receivers over tight ends. But to case in point, once again, I do think he'll score some touchdowns that keep him fantasy relevant. He is a big target down in the red zone. But ultimately, I do think people are going to be disappointed because I don't think he's going to be, a top 4, top 5 tight end like he was last year. I think he'll be kind of in that, 8 to 10 range.
Yeah. And I guess I was saying with the 14.2% being pretty high, mainly for Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's a higher number that we've seen involved for Ryan Fitzpatrick, because as you've mentioned many times, Ryan Fitzpatrick loves his wide receivers. Dude, it still blows my mind that Logan Thomas was a top 5 tight end. last year. Like he had a great finish.
So this was fun. I was talking to Hannon, who was in a dynasty league with us, and he was trying to figure out who to drop on his team, on his dynasty team, right? And I told him, I was like, drop.
Did you do
Kyle...
me a favor?
No, what? I told him drop Kyle Trask, and he's like, why? You don't believe in him? I'm like, bro, Bruce Arians does not develop rookie quarterbacks, dude. He has to. All of his best quarterbacks he has basically gone out and had to go and trade for or get that are older in their career, that are good quarterbacks that need a better system. And I said his best quarterback in the league right now that he actually drafted is a tight end, and it's Logan Thomas, like 5 years ago. And it took him like 5 years to like break out or whatever. But yeah, I do think that he'll have games, right? But I think he'll be much more of a spot start kind of thing than a weekly start, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think so too. And I picked up Logan Thomas in our dynasty league there, and he was great. But I'm still shopping for tight ends in dynasty because it's not there. It could happen, but it's probably not. Silver Raptor comes in, says Logan Thomas is 30 years, not exactly a breakout age. He broke out last year. Like it already happened though. Like
age 49 breakout, bro.
And it happened. And he was a top 5 tight end, and he looked great. He played great. The numbers were solid. And now he's coming in with some really solid preseason numbers from Fitzpatrick. He's one of those like fine tight ends later down with upside is what it is. Like if I end up with him on my, a lot of my other tight ends that I like in that area end up getting taken, I'm not upset about it. Like I'd be like, okay, like I'll have to figure this out possibly, but like there is upside. There's definitely upside, but I think it's small. I think, dude, he needed so many good things to happen for him last year that are just not going to happen again.
I think Terry McLaurin is going to have a mega year, dude. I think Terry McLaurin is going to be a guy that we're going to be talking about potentially top 5 taking next year in drafts, because I think he's going to have a huge jump.
No, I think he could. And moving forward, another receiver that a lot of folks in the industry are expecting to take another big jump would be Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Mikol Hardman, who is now slotted to be in that number 2 role after the departure of Sammy Watkins to Baltimore. This is the impressive stat on Mikol. In 103 career he has never missed a game. He has 103 career targets in those 32 games. He's never missed a game. And he is showing us why Andy Reid wants him in that number 2 role. He's going to have to prove it. It's not there yet. Byron Pringle and Marcus Robinson, they've come in and had impressive plays. Mikol hasn't broken out as that clear-cut number 2 heir apparent to Tyreek Hill, but he is slotted now. It's his job to lose. And you love to see a stat like just a Iron Man type of attitude, who doesn't miss games, who comes out, gets the work done, takes his role seriously, and does all that he can. I'm excited to see what Mikol is going to be about. I know that the Chiefs haven't had their wide receiver 2 produce, but they've had a lot of inconsistency, and we have seen that wide receiver 2 at least produce during games. And it's been so inconsistent. It's going to be the most consistent it's ever been now with Mikol filling in that number 2. And he's like the opposite of, it's like that movie Unbreakable, where you got Bruce Willis and you've got Mr. Glass, Sammy Watkins, Mr. Glass, Bruce Willis, Unbreakable being Mikol Hardman. We'll see how this ends up shaking out this year.
I was telling this to, I have a friend, and she was drafting yesterday or the other day, and she was asking me because she really wanted to take Tyreek Hill. And I explained to her, I was like, don't take Tyreek because she was going to have to take him in the first or the second. And I was like, don't take Tyreek because you can get basically the same wide receiver.
No, Johnny, it's not.
No. But hear me out. Hear me out. No.
Okay,
I'm
saying,
hear me out. Hear me out. Okay. I'm not saying that Mikol is just as talented as Tyreek right now. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, for the draft capital difference, for what you can get as far as upside, Mikol can get 2 touchdowns in a game. He can burn defenses because he's not getting that number 1 corner on him. He's getting the number 2, and offenses are going to be more so keyed on Kelsey and stopping and Hill. And I'm not saying that Hill is not going to be a good wide receiver, that we're going to see him significantly drop off. But I am saying like he's going to take some touchdowns off the board because Mikol's going to get those long bombs that we're used to Tyreek all getting. And now he's got a guy equally as fast as him on a less
he lost the foot race. He did lose the foot race. He's a little slower than Tyreek.
Right. But I'm just saying, I'm saying for that little amount of time, it makes up for the corner difference, right? Like Tyreek's going to have the number one corner. So that's all I'm just saying is that for what you can get in your second, like give me whatever running back in that early second that you want and Mikol Hardman on the year. And I'll give you, and then you take like whoever wants to, like they take Hill, and then whoever you would like to pick in the 11th round, that 10th or 11th round right now is where you're getting Hardman. And I guarantee you, like that combo will be.
What I think that's fine. What I just add on this one, because big Tyreek Hill observer and all these things, and what I really like about this, and you hear me talk about handcuffs quite a bit, Tyreek Hill and Mikol Hardman are one of the rare situations right now where I see a handcuff wide receiver as an availability, where it's not going to actually be too expensive for you. Like I have no problem taking Tyreek Hill as the number one wide receiver off the board, even with the number one cornerbacks, even with the recognition of who this player is. He had 15 touchdowns last year on almost 1,300 yards, and he was the number 2 wide receiver. He's been the number 1 wide receiver as well. That's not going to slow down. You're not. It's not. Like he's still going to be able to take the lids off. Go ahead and put 2 corners on him. They've been doing it for years. It doesn't matter. But he's not, and it's not. Mikol Hardman is not Tyreek Hill. He's not. But
I'm not saying
if Tyreek Hill goes down, Mikol Hardman is going to be filling in and is going to get, I think, a big bump up from it in a way where Mikol's cheap right now. And so you can almost handcuff that wide receiver. And I guarantee you, if Mikol's available in the waiver wire and Tyreek Hill goes down, that's the number 1 choice next week.
I agree, but I don't agree with all your statements there. But I do agree that Tyreek would be the number 1 waiver option. But I don't think he makes it to waivers. He's worth the upside to me over getting Hill, because Hill won't get 15 touchdowns again. Like he won't get that.
They called it on team last year, and Tyreek got what he got. So,
but Sammy, the thing is Mikol wasn't on the field a lot last year, and this year he'll see the field a lot more. Is my thing.
I don't think he'll get 1,500 yards, but where do you think Tyreek Hill finishes? Wide receiver.
I think I have him as a top 6 wide receiver for me.
Okay.
So I'm not saying he falls off a major cliff, but I don't think he gets.
You see a lot of value in Mikol.
I do. And that's just, I'm a value-based kind of drafter. And so that's why, because I think, for a perfect example, I think Terry McLaurin is going to finish. I believe I have him right after Mikol. And so it's like, I could get him a whole round difference. And, like I said, get a running back or a tight end or whatever you want to get in that second round, and then draft Mikol way later. And I think I'm getting the same upside.
You and I have been going back and forth on Mikol Hardman for probably 2 years. We've been going back and forth on Tyreek Hill for 2 years. I'm happy to pull the receipts. We'll see about these new receipts that are coming up next year, though. Yeah, on these ones, it's a tie. Hey, I went ahead and paid a second round rookie draft price to pick up Mikol Hardman in our dynasty league, but I've also got Tyreek Hill in that league, and I took him in our first round 3 years ago, and I'm very happy that I did.
The other thing is, Mikol followed the same footsteps as Tyreek did, and Tyreek broke out a little bit later. Oh, no, Tyreek broke out like fairly quickly because he stepped in the offense his rookie year. But I'm just saying he started as a punt returner, and then he's moved to wide receiver. So there's
and that was like that famous line that
whose line is it anyway?
Where the points don't matter. Who's the cornerback for the Rams over via?
Oh, Ramsey.
Jalen Ramsey, who him and Tyreek had a little bit of jarring going back and forth. Oh yeah, and they were talking about the Pro Bowl, and Jalen Ramsey getting credit for being a Pro Bowler as a returner.
Bro, that's like that.
But then that year he dropped almost 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns, and finished as the number 4 wide receiver in standard. And the next year he was 1-1 in all formats.
But it's also kind of funny because it's like the whole like, oh, bro, you won a gold medal, but what was it in? It was in speed walking. It's like, bro, it's still a gold medal, bro. You still made the Pro Bowl. Like,
yeah, no, I hear that. And I mean, it's also a cool thing that to see Tyreek Hill make a Pro Bowl as a returner, as a wide receiver, especially as like a 5 foot, He's listed as 5'10"
5'10"
on Sleeper. That's
5'10",
some
yeah,
tall ass
and his
cleats.
cleats, yeah.
Yeah, some big cleats and big socks that he's wearing to be 5'10". I don't think so, dude. No way. But that's it, man.
Yeah.
So dude, we've gotten to the end of the list on our news and nuggets here. We'll be going at let's go ahead and jump to the questions. Let's answer some of these questions here. We're going to then go ahead and we're going to hit you with the outro, and then we're going to do a little bit behind the scenes action. We're just going to talk a little bit about our listener league and some of the things that Johnny and I got at the top of our brain. So Mr. Miyagi's got him at 3, I guess, for Tyreek Hill.
Nice.
I got him in my elite category. I've got Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, and I'm putting DeAndre Hopkins up in that category for me. That's my elite 4.
We had Calvin asking, regardless of format, would you rather have Thomas or Tunyon? Give me Tunyon, dude. Give me Bobby T, dude.
Yeah,
I pity a fool. That's what
I want to touch with Thomas, dude. And I have him on my dynasty team. Loved it. I can't believe I picked him up off the waivers last year. Like in a dynasty, we have 25 people and a lot of good players. Like that was crazy. That was awesome. But Logan Thomas last year closed the season finishing really well, but you're just not going to see these same kinds of things again. In week 13, he had 9 targets, caught all 9 of them for 98 yards and a touchdown. In week 15, he had 16 targets, 13 catches for 101 yards, 12 targets the next game. Like he just had these monster performances there with Dwayne Haskins. Actually, was throwing in the ball for a few of these ones. And I just don't see Fitzpatrick getting into a game where he's just like is using that safety blanket to that level.
Well, and like that's Alex Smith's kind of MO too. Like he loves the tight. I mean, that's he made Kelsey basically before Kelsey, was Kelsey. Like he even with Alex Smith was like how he first broke out was with Alex Smith. So it's like it's a whole thing with like Phillip Rivers and his running backs. Like that gets a boost when Phillip Rivers plays. It's the same thing with Alex Smith and his tight ends.
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Nice. Calvin Brown's here. Took Hardman as wide receiver 5 in the Scotty Fish Bowl.
Well done, sir.
Yeah, that's
well
nice.
Done.
I love Mikol like in best ball too. Like I love.
I won't tell him who my number 5 wide receiver is.
Will you tell me in secret? Will you whisper it in my ear later? No. All right.
No, I mean everyone knows. It's my boy Jacoby.
Yeah, like that one.
We have this one, Silver Rapture. I really wanted Marquez Callaway, Brian Edwards, Corey Davis, Russell Gage as his late round dart throws. I like those guys. Marquez Callaway, man.
Marquez Callaway for sure.
Especially with the news that we talked about earlier on the show with Jameis Winston becoming quarterback. He loves to take those dart throws, and yeah, I'm excited about him.
Dude, Jameis Winston for fantasy purposes, I don't know if the Saints are going to be happy with that. I think Bruce Arians is a phenomenal coach, and he was so happy to get rid of Jameis Winston. I think Sean Payton's also a good coach who will – I'm just curious to see what he's able to do with him from a fantasy perspective. I can't stand Jameis Winston personally, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So, like, from that playmaking perspective, yeah, he might get you 30 touchdowns. He might get you 30 interceptions. But you almost even kind of like that if you're a wide receiver, if you got Callaway or you got any of these other offensive weapons that are going to benefit from that type of game flow.
I mean, the thing about Sean Payton is like he is a big quarterback whisperer. Like no one really talks about that, but like all of his quarterbacks that have all played have all been solid. Like every year, like towards the end of the year when Breeze was going in and out because of injuries, and then we're like, oh well, what are the Saints going to do? Are they going to? And they always just kind of figured it out. Like they had
Taysom Hill
or Jameis Winston and like. Teddy B, they resurrected Teddy B's career.
Yeah,
before
seriously,
that,
right? Good point.
So
the other point, Callaway, love him. There's like it's like a scramble over there in New Orleans because it's a viable place for fantasy pieces, right? Like we just expect you never know. Like Kamara wasn't a big name, and boom, he's what he is. Jimmy Graham ends up being like one of the best fantasy tight ends, close to the Mount Rushmore of fantasy tight ends if he's not already on there. You get Mikol Thomas. You get there's been so many who've come. Marquise Colston,
Sanders.
You're talking Sanders.
Yeah,
just different dudes who have come out of the New Orleans or Sean Payton setup. We talk about Callaway, who's a big one, and Johnny. I wanted to take this to bring up a deep tight end dart throw with, I think, some pretty darn good upside. That's Juwan Johnson.
Oh
You
yeah,
had
they were hyping him up. I almost put him in the show.
Juwan Johnson, 24-year-old, second year, converted wide receiver who kind of danced around their practice squad, who's now looking like he could be their main tight end, filling in for that Jared Cook role, because not only is Adam Troutman hurt, he's hurt with a foot. He looks like he's going to be hurt all the rest of training camp. But he's looking like he might fill in more of a blocking role. And Juwan Johnson is not a blocker. He's an athlete. He's a receiver. And if they're putting him on the field, they're not putting him on the field to block. And because we're pointing at Callaway, we're pointing at other guys, like we don't know, there is a pathway to take that lead spot. And because then you got a guy who's relocated, he's super athletic, he's filling in a new role. Like, am I putting a big bet on Juwan Johnson? No, I'm not. But we talked about it last week. Every year, there's a couple of tight ends who are undrafted who end up being guys or 15th round guys. Like, he's got what it takes to be one of these difference-making tight ends. And difference-making is what I'm getting at. Like, yeah, you're going to find guys who are going to get work in the red zone, who are going to be involved in those spaces. But, like, he could actually be a playmaker for you.
Oh, so funny story. I was reading a little bit on this. So they wanted to name, or like their friends and family or whatever wanted to name him Michael Jordan, like when he was born. And then so mom didn't want to do that, so she just named him Lil Jordan. I love that story, man. Like,
I know, dude,
it's like my family, dude. Like, I wanted to be named John Hicks, and they were like, oh no, we're naming him Johnny Game Time. Like, that's
on the birth certificate.
On the birth certificate, man. I'm just
kidding. A couple other questions here. Mr. Miyagi, I got my Sal-Cal League Saturday. Much do you recommend I budget for that? -6 pots, thinking 10%. And that's for...
is that for Marquez
or Mikol?
Or Lil Jordan? Hold on.
Let us know.
Let us know. Yeah, let us know for what player you're talking about. If it's Lil Jordan, I don't think you need to do that much, because it's still preseason. People like saving their fob. But if it's Marquez, I would put 10% on that. I would probably put 12%.
Brett Forsyth just comes in the comment saying Mikol Thomas says on his YTY YouTube channel that he is staying in New Orleans.
Yeah, for now. Until they trade him.
Well, Sean Payton's coming out saying positive, warm and fuzzies. Mikol Thomas is coming out saying positive, warm and fuzzies. And Mikol Thomas did allude to behind the scenes words, already, when he's like, oh, you made me look bad by not telling my side of it or whatever. I'm not going to do the same to you or something like that. All I'm saying is, like, behind the scenes conversations are clearly happening and they're progressing. I think it's going to depend on how well Marquez Callaway does.
I do think that, one, and two, dude, where there's smoke, baby. Like, this is like definitely a sign. There's something going on. That's like definitely a warning shot. Like, yo, you didn't let me tell my story, but I will if I need to. And I don't know, man. But he does this cryptic stuff all the time. I think he's trying. I don't know. I don't want to like say another conspiracy, but I think he saw what Aaron Rodgers was doing, and I think he's trying to do the same thing, but it's not being perceived that way. And so
maybe it's kind of like an Odell Beckham situation there when he was with New York, right? Where he was productive, but he was a locker room issue, and team still wanted him. He still had enough youth on his side. He still gave us some good things to look at the last time we saw him on the field. We still have that excitement. We still have that hope. You know what I mean? Yeah. The same way that they did with Odell. And Odell was on a decent contract. They had him for years, and they still said, go to Cleveland.
Well, and not to say that like Mikol Thomas doesn't have, like, I'm sure he has beef. Like, he has a reason, and like there was a reason why he held. I think a big part of it was they told him he could rehab that ankle and it would be fine, and then it didn't end up happening. He still had issues with it, so he didn't. It's that whole trust thing, and I think that once you break that, man, especially with football players, especially with football players, once you break their trust, it is so hard to get it back. And so I don't blame him. I think he's very frustrated, and he's also probably frustrated because he doesn't get the respect. It's like, when you win a championship in your league and your league mates still don't give you any respect because they still say, oh, you got lucky or whatnot.
You're not talking from any personal experiences or anything.
No, right? Not at all. But it is, that's what I'm saying. So we'll see what ends up happening, but it is interesting to keep watching that because I don't think it's over. I don't think it's over. But you know what is over? Oh.
Almost the set of questions, and then the show
right.
will be. How much do you budget for your bench? You're thinking 10%. What do you think, Johnny?
I don't necessarily put a thing like that on. Here's my 2 cents on how I budget fab throughout the year. If it's a dynasty league, I don't. If I see a player that I deem very valuable or I think has a bright future, then I'm willing to go more so on that player. Like I'm not afraid to spend my fob or wob this early in a dynasty because the slim pickings are already slim, and so it's like, why am I necessarily like, what if this is the only guy, as far as like a regular season, I wouldn't go all 100% because you want to save that usually till like 3 or 4. But again, I wouldn't be afraid to think about long-term because what if this is the long-term guy? Like for example, Callaway, if you're like, oh, I'm going to save my budget because I think a wide receiver 1 could come up later on down the season. And I'm worried about Mikol Thomas coming back. Well, and so you don't place a bid or you're worried about placing too much. And then he ends up being a wide receiver 1 because Mikol Thomas gets traded or doesn't come back. And he has that connection with Jameis. Then it's like, oh, well, you missed your boat on that. And you could have had him very, potentially cheap for, penny, single digit wob or whatever. So if you believe in him, like Callaway, I wouldn't mind going up to, 15 wob on him if he's on your waiver, because I do think that he will definitely be good for the first half of the season until MT comes back. And then, and that in case that he doesn't, then you're looking at a potential wide receiver 1 all season.
Great breakdown, Johnny. Want to give Mr. Miyagi one of the last comments here.
Oh.
My league of record is Saturday. Can't wait. Bart Scott style. Oh my God. Ours is Labor Day, like we said. I am right there with you.
I do have an auction. I have an auction draft this weekend as well. And so does Mr. Miyagi.
Right on. Well, enjoy those drafts coming up this weekend. Next week, all up until it. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoy what you're listening to. We're going to be coming at you all year long. Our programming is going to be shifting up as the season gets into action. Johnny, before we close it down and jump to the behind-the-scenes portion of the broadcast, anything you'd like to let Whisper Nation know?
Appreciate you guys so much. Hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. If you have a draft this weekend, good luck. Go pick up the draft kit. Hoping to send, or we'll be sending out an update tomorrow morning. So all those will be ready to go. So yeah, just get on over and get the draft kit. The link is also in the description.
There it is. All right. Awesome. Serious. Johnny Game Time Hicks. We're the Fantasy Whispers. Peace.
Right here.
And we're back just like that.
Nice.
Dude.
But we're like, we're letting our hair down now.
Now we're letting our hair. Exactly. Dude, I could have, we talked about making that outro a little bit. We're working on a different kind of outro for that end spot there. But yeah, dude, how wild would it be? I showed people I let down my hair, my friends, I saw them after a while, COVID stuff. And I pulled or let my hair down, dude. And they were like, oh my goodness. Because I'm
liking your look when it's coming together, man.
Appreciate it.
I like it. I think, I like the cut up on here. Oh, still here. I'm here. Oh, we're still here, bro. We're just hanging now. We're just hanging now.
Great insight. Brett,
man.
Brett. Appreciate you, dude. Welcome to Whisper Nation, dude.
Welcome to Whisper Nation, where pump fake me on the outros. Yeah, no, it's for
that's what we do, dude.
We're on the backside.
We got him, dude. We got the free buzzer beater shot, dude.
I know, man. I love that one, dude. Whisper, the Listener League, dude, has been a lot of fun. Like, I wish I had more chance to jump in there and stay in the comments. But the crew, like, they're active, they're agitated, they're fun. But like, it's dude, I'm enjoying it.
I have never seen a more active crowd than our Listener League. Like, shout out to them. They have been pumping. I like you said, I can't even keep up because like I'll check it. And then, before I know it, there's like 80 messages like that I didn't check. I'm like, oh, I got to go read these. Like
trade requests,
the super active
action, already. Waiver wire action, shit talking, like good insights.
Yeah. Or like, and it's fun. Like some of the trades, man, they've been pretty bad, but it's been Yeah.
in our dynasty league, you just pulled off a big one there with the Jonnu.
dude.
You picked up Jonnu Smith and Jerry Jeudy. You got rid of DJ Chark, 15 Wob, and a first round pick next year. Is that right? And your team is
Yeah.
pretty good. I'd say you're in the top 3 of our dynasty of our 12 teams. So your draft pick is looking like it'll be on that backside.
And that's what I kind of figured. At first, I didn't really want to do the first. I was talking and negotiating Chase Edmonds and Eno Benjamin, because I don't know if I'm not getting off the boat on Chase. Don't worry, but I already have 3 other running backs, and so I doubt I would be playing another Chase over any one of those other 3 running backs. And I probably won't even play 3 running backs in a week because my wide receivers are really good. But yeah, I was super jacked about it. I appreciate you mentioning it. I did mess up though. Oh, this is like kind of, I want to bring this up too. But I was so excited. I couldn't believe that Hannon had traded or was going to make the trade, because I was really excited to get Jerry Jeudy, and he has an emotional attachment to Jerry Jeudy. And
he's a Denver fan and all that.
He's a Denver fan, and I'm just a big fan of Jerry Jeudy this year. And honestly, low key, I do think there's potential that Aaron Rodgers is going to go
to Denver next year.
Yeah, next year, and I think that's why they made the Teddy B switch, is because Teddy B will prove like that they're a pretty good team, and then they'll just they'll bring Aaron Rodgers and be like, look, this is what we did with Teddy B. Imagine what we did if you are a quarterback, and it's that whole thing, just showing their potential for next year. And anyway, did I say all that? And I was so excited to click accept that I didn't read over the whole the whole transaction of the trade. And Hannon had accidentally left off Jonnu, which is another big piece to me, because I
thought you got hosed.
No, I know. Well,
I was like,
at
what
first
the
I was
hell
like,
is he doing? Is he really that high on Jerry Jeudy?
Yeah, and like
I was like, first round pick and DJ Chark. I don't care about the Wob,
dude,
but
yeah. So that's where I noted. So I hit accept, super excited about it, and I go to that page that says the trade, and I'm like looking at it. I'm like, why does this seem so even on there, I'm like, why does this seem so lopsided? And then I'm like staring. I'm like, why does it look weird? And then I was like, oh my gosh, Jonnu is not on there. And so, I texted him. Luckily, we are a league of integrity. And so he was like, oh, we'll fix it. But then we're trying to figure out how to do it. And Sleeper has a thing, Austin, where you could just send player. Like, you don't have to send them for anything. Like, you could
the
send
Zip Nilch Nada. It was like traded.
Yeah.
It was Jonnu Smith traded to JW Hicks for Zip Nil Nada.
Yeah, like exactly. And so we were just like, I didn't know that it was possible. It just had popped up that it was possible. I was like, okay, we'll try it out. But Hannon made a good point. It does lead to a little bit of fishiness. What if that actually happened? Like, some team was just like, oh, I'm giving this player to him. And it's like, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, that just depends on your league mate.
Yeah, I was interesting to see that as a feature. I had never heard that or seen that before.
I wanted to ask you here, it's kind of a personal question here, and I'm like, for anybody who's listening on this one to our dynasty league dynamics, I think you'll probably agree with me. I think most of the league would probably agree. There's 3 teams in our 12 that stand out: your team, my team, and Chris Thomas's team. Mm-hmm. And these are teams that have like multiple first round picks.
And Josh's team. I would say Josh's team as well.
Cargans, he does have he does. He's got Patrick Mahomes, which is super nice.
He's got DK.
That was a good pick. He's got Mixon, Carson, Patrick Mahomes, Cooper Kupp, DK.
His window is just really short. Like, that's the thing. Like, he doesn't have like a huge window to win. But I would say those are the top 4 teams.
Yeah, those are the top ones there. And running backs are like super, super thirsty always. And like, I'm kind of like in the position where I'm like, I'm just gonna hoard running backs, and I'm like Javonte Smith is my number 5 running back. Or he's not Javonte Williams, rookie there for Denver.
I couldn't believe he fell to you that far. I was shocked.
Yeah, he's my number 1 running back in this class. I know he is. He's
gonna be so good. He's gonna be so good.
Chunk yards, dude. Chunkers. But I was looking at it, and there's not a lot of room for me to try to trade up, humble brag here with Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb, like as my main two dogs. But, it's like a thing like, oh, do I want to maybe package up a James Robinson and a Javonte Williams for like a super shiny piece? And I'm kind of like, injuries happen, dude. Like stuff goes on. And I kind of like having two good running backs on my bench in Dynasty. I think it's kind of the right call.
It's that the risk and reward kind of thing where you have to, and that's why Dynasty is so fun. Like if listeners are listening right now and haven't tried Dynasty, get into a Dynasty league with some close friends, even if it's just for free to try it out. It is absolutely so fun. But like Austin, you're saying, because I've been kind of battling the same thing. I'm like, because at the same time, you have to also look at like longevity, like when you're
Chase Edmonds is on your bench.
Yeah. And so that was why I was like, okay, like, do I keep? And what made me nervous was like, okay, if I do trade that duo, then if anything were to happen to two of these running backs, which is totally possible, and, injuries happen all the time, then I was like, I could be kind of relying on Kenyon Drake as my wide running back too. And I think I'm in the vying option to win it this year. So I don't know if I want to do that. So it's like that whole like, give and take, like what you got to think long-term and short-term, which is really fun, which is like what GMs have to do and what NFL execs have to do. So that's why it makes it so fun to play Dynasty.
But like Hannon turned around after your trade and tried to pick up Javonte Williams from me for your first round, his second round, and a fifth round. A couple of years that were sprinkled out. I'm like, it's not a bad deal, but I think Javonte Williams is like, we're going to look back on it and he's like the 1-1 from that class. And it's well, not all first round picks are created equal. Yeah. Oh, dude, you know what I do when I'm having a bad day?
Actually, I was already on that boat. Like, I don't know but I do think Najee is going to be good. I think
when I'm having a bad day, man, and I swear to God, I've done this like 3 times. I'll watch at the end of the day, I watch Najee Harris highlights from college. And then I immediately after watch Javonte Williams highlights from college. And they are so obviously different types of players. And in my opinion, Javonte Williams is so much the more exciting and fantasy viable type of runner than Najee is. Najee brings dudes with him across the goal line. Williams doesn't have dudes on him.
I know, like, he jukes them. He jukes them out of their shoes.
Najee like really falls forward as where Javonte Williams shakes him off.
Yeah. And I do think, like I said, I do believe in Javonte. I just think I don't know this year if it's Javonte over.
Yeah, I agree.
But like I do think long term, like I think you're right. You'll look back and you'll be like, oh, they should have taken Javonte.
That's so like and like Vince Vaughn went in the first round. I took Darrynton Evans as a handcuff for Derrick Henry in the first round. Like these are crappy first round picks. You know what I mean? When like Antonio Gibson and Justin Jefferson go 6 picks later.
Well, that's where because originally I wasn't going to include the first rounder. And then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait a second. Fine. Like you said, top 4. So I was like, worst pick I'm going to have is probably, or best pick, I guess, in a draft would be pick like 9. So I was like, okay, what are my odds of landing a good solid guy? And like, I'm confident in scouting guys, but again, it's a gamble versus a guy like Jerry Jeudy,
who you've seen play, you know what he's expected to do on the team. There's no way, like, you get these Jamar Chase clips that comes out and like, we're looking at Jamar Chase as being like this great guy, but then it's like, he's looking rusty, They're still figuring him out. You don't know. That's not the Jerry Jeudy narrative. It's like, we had expectations for you and then you did what you did. And now we're like valuing you even higher. There's clarity involved. So like that is not only that, and he's 22.
And that's the thing is you also have to look as far as the cost to keep a player like that on your bench. And what I mean is I drafted Bryan Edwards last year and he has been a slow wide receiver to, he hasn't popped yet. Right. Yeah. But there's a lot of potential there. So you don't want to drop him. So like that, but the whole year I've had
Mikol Hardman as well.
Right. But I've had to burn a roster spot for that whole year for Bryan Edwards to see if he has the potential. But with Jerry Jeudy, somebody else burned that roster spot last year.
Exactly.
And so it's like, now I know he can come in and start because now it's like usually when wide receivers take off. So you also look at that as well. A part of a trade deal is, that's time spent that isn't spent on your roster, is also significant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. Johnny, this has been a great news and nuggets section. It's been awesome to talk with you and Whisper Nation. And it's just been an awesome way to spend the birthday, man.
Hey, I once again want to say thank you, and Whisper Nation, I'm sure I could speak for you as well. And we say happy birthday, Austin. Really thank you for coming on today and sharing part of your special day with me and Whisper Nation. Greatly appreciate it, man. I love you.
Wouldn't have it any other way. Love you too, man. I'm Austin Sear.
And I'm Johnny Game Time Hicks.
We're the Fantasy Whispers, man. Again, we're out.
And
Peace.
Peace.
Right here.
Oh, hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw and you want to learn how to dominate your own draft and win your own league, head on over to thefantasywhispers.com and grab your copy of the Fantasy Whispers Draft Kit today. Or click the link in the description below. And if you're still not sold, check out one of these videos.